So even Chris Matthews agrees last night was not a good night for the far left, especially Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Check that. When you've lost Chris Matthews, it's over.
Chris, this happens in debates, as much a discussion about who they are, how they want to present themselves as a party, as there was how they're going to beat this guy in 2020 if they're going to be successful.
Well, I think they were dealing with serious issues tonight. There's no doubt it. Let's talk about the issue that really drove Donald Trump's campaign last time, the illegal immigration, undocumented workers, if you will. They talked about making it non-criminal to come in the country illegally. Okay, that's going a bit further away from Trump. On health care, they talked about basically Medicare for your whole life or government-run health care. Well, that's going to cost more money. Obviously, if you pay in, as we all do, all of us do now, for Medicare, if you reach age 65, you're going to have to pay more to pay for your health care your whole life. But Warren wouldn't answer that question. Bernie said that's Republican talking points. So I think, and then the third one, they really disagreed on the Green New Deal. So past, current, and future, it seems to me they hit on the big ones.
They're in a lot of trouble. Even Matthews starting to realize this far left lurch of the Democrat Party may not be best for them to pull back. What did I tell you was axiom number 2? You cannot run so radically far left so that when the primary's over and you have to turn back towards the center of the country, it's impossible. Folks, there's an interesting piece in the Wall Street Journal today, and at the end they make a point I have been making on this show for eons now. Joe, the days of being able to talk about ridiculous things like 90% tax rates, government-run health care, takeovers of the student loan industry, which Obama actually did, all of this radical Green New Deal, far-left stuff in a primary, and then going into the general and saying, well, now I'm for reasonable tax rates and school choice are over. Yeah. Why? What's the difference now? Let me show you what the difference is. That's the difference. That's my phone. That's the difference. Everybody records everything now. That wasn't the case 20, 30 years ago. There are volumes and volumes. The Trump War Room and the RNC is putting out volumes and volumes now of video evidence of these people saying ridiculous things. They're in a world of trouble. Now, a guy I ran against for Congress, John Delaney, many of you know him. I'm not going to go into the backstory again. But Delaney was on stage last night. Again, sounded, at least for this radical left now field of candidates, he sounded like the only sane guy on the stage, and even his ideas are far left. Here's Delaney last night going in full attack mode to Bernie Sanders on this ridiculous Medicare for All plan. And I want to explain, because I got a few more cuts on this, why this is such a disaster and the bait and switch they're pulling. Here's Delaney fighting back against the radical leftists. Keep in mind, Delaney has some far left plans too.
Folks, we have a choice. We can go down the road that Senator Sanders and Senator Warren want to take us with bad policies like Medicare for All, free everything, and impossible promises that'll turn off independent voters and get Trump reelected. That's what happened with McGovern. That's what happened with Mondale. That's what happened with Dukakis.
Where have you heard that before? Oh, here? On my appearances on Fox? Folks, this has been tried before. McGovern, Mondale, and Dukakis. I usually don't cite McGovern because he's a little older, but I always cite Dukakis, and I always cite Mondale. Mondale ran against Reagan on raising your taxes. Joe, he promptly lost 49 out of 50 states and won his home state of Minnesota by 3,000 votes. That's it. Do you understand Mondale literally lost all 50 states? And from what my Secret Service buddies who were around in the Reagan days tell me, Reagan actually didn't go to Minnesota because he felt bad for Mondale, basically ceding Mondale's home state to not wipe him out in a 50 state in a landslide. Whoa. Reagan won New York, Maryland, Hawaii, California. How do you win 49 out of 50? That's not even possible anymore. Now, some evidence that what Delaney's saying is true. Government-run healthcare. Forget this Medicare for All thing. That's just the label the Democrats want to. It's government-run, single-payer healthcare, rationed healthcare. That's what it is, full stop, okay? Right. Marist poll, 64% of Democrats support that. Okay, great. So that might help you win a Democrat primary, right, Joe? Medicare for all. What's the problem, folks? As Delaney pointed out, because this guy is the only one with any common sense on the stage, 41% of the overall electorate support it. Folks, that's nowhere near enough people to get you elected nationally. That 41% probably represents the 64% of Democrats and a few independents thrown in. It's not enough. You're going to lose. All of this stuff is on videotape. All of it. Every bit of it. It's not going to go anywhere. Do you understand they are walking into a trap here? None of this video is going anywhere. Tim Ryan, last night, none of these guys are moderates, make no mistake. I wouldn't even consider voting or supporting a Democrat these days because they're all leftists. The question is, what degree of leftism are we talking about? Clearly, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are far, far left radicals. Tim Ryan, who at least is trying to move a bit towards the center, he's a congressman from Ohio. He's got no chance of winning. Tim Ryan effectively owned the libs himself last night. This is Tim Ryan in 20 seconds or less, puzzled about how crazy what was said on the stage last night was.
Now, in this discussion already tonight, we've talked about taking private health insurance away from union members in the industrial Midwest. We've talked about decriminalizing the border, and we've talked about giving free health care to undocumented workers when so many Americans are struggling to pay for their health care. I, quite frankly, don't think that that is an agenda that we can move forward on and win.
There you go. There it is. There's the Democrat debate summed up in a 20-second clip Joe put together for it. That's it. That's the debate summed up. You're going to cancel free market healthcare plans unions spent decades lobbying for. They forfeited boatloads of wages to get, frankly, but there's some gold-plated insurance plans. But that's what they did. They said, we'd rather take it in health insurance instead. Fine, they negotiated that. You understand, if you're a union member, that those very plans are going to be canceled, right? Do you understand? I mean, I can't play the whole debate, but there's one part in the debate last night where Delaney tells Bernie Sanders, I read section, what was it, 1200, Paula? Paula was laughing because she's like, 1200 sections of the bill? Delaney's like, Bernie, section 1200 of your bill specifically makes these plans illegal. It's like Bernie doesn't know what's in his own bill. Listen, union folks out there, I've come from a union family. You are not my enemy. You are my ally, whether you think so or not. I don't support forced unionization, but you work for a living. God bless you. It's your hands that built America. You are not the enemy on this show. I don't care what Democrats tell you. Republicans, you are not your enemy. We just don't like people being forced to do anything, including join a union. But make no mistake, your hands built this country. And you should have a voice in your own job, a collective voice, which helps you bargain for things. God bless you, and I mean that. But do you understand that these far left radical plans like Medicare for All and a public option are going to effectively eliminate what your union has bargained for? Please tell me you understand that. That is not in dispute by any sane, rational economist. Tim Ryan also. We're talking about providing health care to illegal immigrants. We haven't even figured out how to insure America yet. Listen, we don't have to own the libs. They own themselves. I even have it down. Tim Ryan owns the libs himself. That's why I didn't know how else to title that one. By the way, hat tip to Caleb Hall, who we do have a business with. He does some video for us, but his Twitter feed was gold for a lot of the stuff. He did some really great cuts. So nice job to Caleb on that. Moving on. Here's Pete Buttigieg, mayor of South Bend, Indiana, continuing his attack on Christians. I just don't get this guy's fascination with attacking Christianity, spiritual people in this country, faith-based people. I don't think what he's going to, I'm not sure what he thinks he's going to get out of this, but here he makes a ridiculous comparison between the fight for 15 minimum wage and how I guess we're not real Christians if we believe in economic common sense. Here's Pete Buttigieg blowing it.
The minimum wage is just too low. And so-called conservative Christian senators right now in the Senate are blocking a bill to raise the minimum wage when Scripture says that whoever oppresses the poor taunts their maker.
He is totally blowing his chances right now if he were to get the nomination, which I don't think is going to happen. Totally blowing his chances. Why he insists on constantly attacking Christians is frankly bizarre. I don't get it. Here's a National Review piece by Jack Crow talking about the $15 an hour minimum wage. Federal $15 an hour minimum wage would eliminate 1.3 million jobs, CBO, Congressional Budget Office says, by Jack Crow. That piece will be up in the show notes today. It's from National Review. Show notes at Bongino.com. Ladies and gentlemen, he's citing Proverbs, by the way. And Proverbs, the passage he's citing from the Bible, talks about individual responsibility to care for the poor, not individuals giving to a government that's going to flush money down the toilet bowl to mandate a minimum wage nationally. It's going to cost 1.3 million people their jobs.